longtime artist who then decided they didn't want to do art as a career, then went to college for web design, decided they hated that, and then discovered video games and thought it would be cool to do video game art, and then went to college for that. Okay, so I kind of have two stories for that since I went to two colleges after high school. Directly after high school, I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. Um, and my reason for going to that is probably not the best because high school wasn't fun for me. So I had very bad grades. I wasn't a good student um, by virtue of not trying because I didn't believe in homework. Uh, but so I went to Art Institute of Seattle because they didn't have a GPA requirement. And yeah, that was what I was worried about. And they did have a lot of programs to choose from. So I did have options between like more web design or graphic design or animation. And at the time, I figured I w- I had the misguided opinion that if I did art as a career, I would start to hate drawing. So I decided to go into the multimedia and web design program that they had because I was like, well, web design is probably more lucrative. So that is why I went to Art Institute. Um, why I went, and so I did get an associate's from there for the multimedia and web design program, uh, and then learned later that Art Institute was a terrible college to attend, and they have been had many lawsuits aimed at them. So
See.
yeah, they're closed now, I believe, in Seattle. Uh, but I mean, I could get into more about that experience there later, since that isn't the question at the moment. But my why I went to DigiPen kind of plays off of leaving Art Institute. I left with the associate's degree there and was kind of floating around at a loss for a little while because I was not content with that education, and I was not content working at Starbucks for the almost 2 years I did. So, but in my time working at Starbucks, I met my husband and we went to PAX together. So the Penny Arcade Expo for the first time. And we went to a panel on video game art and they mentioned DigiPen. And I was like, I never even thought of video game art as a career. What? So I looked into DigiPen and I think I applied like really shortly after. No, because PAX is the end of the summer. So I must have applied for the next year. So I applied pretty quickly after that just because it latched on to my interests. And I stopped with the, well, I can't do art as a career if I still want to like art thought. So, like, on the whole, my experience there wasn't terrible. Um, I can't say anything about the lawsuits and stuff that Art Institute in general eventually went through because I didn't particularly have anything to do with that. But I like the classes I had were more aimed at like web design, so learning coding and more graphic design. So like logo design, image editing, uh the visual aesthetics of web design and a little bit of Flash, which is now a dead program. So look what good that class did me. Helped me build up a portfolio too, because I think if I did try to apply to DigiPen straight out of college, straight out of high school, I probably wouldn't have gotten in because I didn't have like a portfolio of work to share. So Art Institute, even though I didn't do anything with the degree after that, it's like I got to take figure drawing class, I got to learn about copyright law, I got to learn more about coding and video and audio recording and editing. So it kind of, that program kind of touched on everything in little bits. Oddly enough, the web design and web just related knowledge I had gained at Art Institute was helpful. It's not as helpful now because it's not like I need to go in and code my own journal entries or anything. But at the time and immediately after, the fact that I knew how to use HTML and a little bit of CSS made using the internet easier. And I was actually able to uh, manipulate my pages that I used online. So it's like, oh, I can make live journal posts with tables. Ooh, which is completely irrelevant now because I have Adobe basically automate a website for me. So that coding knowledge, not really great at right now. Still happy I learned it. But graphic design stuff I feel is always relevant because I've done like logo design and UI element design for games and other stuff. So graphic design has definitely carried all the way through. Figure drawing is just always a useful tool to have, especially if since I like drawing and illustrating characters. Uh, DigiPen was definitely more in line with things I was interested in. Uh, like, because it was more heavily into just illustration and animation rather than the miscellaneous web design related things that I had at Art Institute. Although I will say, those video and audio editing and recording classes at Art Institute were great because I actually had some of that knowledge when I took my film classes at DigiPen. So nice bit of crossover, which my time at Art Institute helped with immensely. But DigiPen started us all off with traditional work. So traditional 2D animation and illustration and art history and all that, and then slowly moved us to 3D and where we went into the 3D animation and modeling programs. And then the final year, they finally opened it up a little bit for us, being like, okay, now you can kind of choose what direction you want to go in. Which I think since I've left there, they've actually expanded upon that thought, which is great because up until my senior year, I felt very penned into 3D stuff, and I was not interested in 3D stuff. I feel like DigiPen taught more uh, they taught more on like observation and creativity side of things, and they didn't worry as much about technical skill because technical skill is just the thing you gain over time. So I think DigiPen in particular just helped mold me into someone who can be a little more observant and a little more creative and be able to take that into another media, I guess, if that makes sense. Because it's like all the actual technical stuff, learning like how to draw with materials or how to use digital programs. Most of that I just learned by doing myself and messing up. Oh, there's a lot of that knowledge that I'm like, I don't actively use this right now, but I'm glad I know it. Like learning about copyright law. I don't have to deal with that right now or ever, cross your fingers, but it's just weird things that's like, wait a minute, this is what? Like last night my husband showed me an ad that oh, it was the I can't believe it's not Butter People. They made an ad and promoted it on Twitter, and it featured a Pikachu meme. And my husband and I just are sitting there at 10 p.m. at night going, wait, where do memes fit into copyright law? So Art Institute wasn't, I don't remember it being terrible. Like I don't remember being completely swamped with anything, except for maybe like my last quarter or semester, whichever one they did there. Um, so it was pretty reasonable. Also, I had a few classes that the teachers just didn't care about homework. So it was just like, okay, we're doing this thing in class and that's it. It's like, okay, cool. So although Art Institute was also a while ago, so I don't remember it quite as well, but I don't remember being as swamped, as I was when I went to DigiPen. And DigiPen was the flips just completely the opposite, where I had no time. I had my laptop out during like my family's Thanksgiving and Christmas get-togethers at our house because I still had work I had to get done. So it was not good. And I mean, DigiPen knows they give out that much work too. I have absolutely no idea how I did that anymore. Um, like a few things that I know that helped is I lived at home for most of my time at DigiPen. So it's like my parents were there. They took care of, cooking and feeding me and all that. So that I didn't have to worry about. And then when I moved out, I was living with my husband. I don't think we were married at that point, but I was living with him. And so he could also feed me and make sure I didn't die. So, I had people who could support me. Um, I also I also quickly learned that good enough is fine to submit. Uh, so I kind of would look at what I know would be acceptable to turn in and at least give me a decent grade, um, which worked for the most part. Uh, okay. After Art Institute, like I said, I pretty much just worked at Starbucks and I hated it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. After DigiPen, I got hired for a few months by like a 3-person indie team to concept for a game, and that kind of just died at some point. And then I got hired at a mobile game company in Seattle, and I worked there for a few years. Um, and there was a but after time working there, trying to do conventions and going to conventions to sell art and teaching was too much for me. And because the game company was in Seattle, which was like a 30-minute commute on a good day. And I had come to the realization that they were paying me about half what I think they should have been paying me. I quit there and then decided to just do freelance full time and teaching and just doing conventions. So I have been doing that since I quit that studio job. And since then I have done like freelance work for some other mobile games. So I'm still kind of in that mobile game sphere, just not in a studio anymore. Oh, I'm still dealing with that. Yeah, I did. I did take out loans for my entire time at both colleges. And my parents had like the parent loans that they could take out, uh, which was a trial because my mom and my stepdad both also had loans at the time because my mom was getting her doctorate and my stepdad was going through law school. So everyone in my family has school loans right now. So I have tried not to think about it too much because it's a lot to deal with. Though the loan people are very nice when you actually do get to like talk to them and call them, because they want to work with you because they want you to pay them back. So right now mine are set on a what is it called, it's like an income based repayment plan. So you just give them basically your tax info and they go, okay, all right, so you can pay about this much every month to us. So that is what I have now, which it's still charging interest, which isn't great, but it's not making me pay like 2K a month, which is what some of my former classmates had to deal with.
Wow.
They also had some better paying in studio jobs though. So still obscene, but they were a little bit more able to cope with that than I would have been. I guess just don't stop communicating with the loan people because, like I said, it's like every time I've talked with them, they have been very, very nice. So if just being on top of calling them and trying to communicate with someone to change whatever you pay a month if you need to would be, I think, my biggest recommendation. I mean, they warn you when you go into college to never, ever, ever, ever default on your loans. So that they very much hammered that point in. So I fortunately at least stayed on top of that. So I never missed a payment or just didn't pay it at all because that can be very bad for your credit.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? Just listen to the advice of those people who yell at you about school loans because they are telling the truth. And if
Yeah.
you can't, I mean, if you can get away with not taking them, then don't, because you're going to be paying more.
Yeah.
And also, if your parents are going to school, also,
Mhm.
that loan people don't take that into account. Like they
Mm.
like the when I applied for loans, they only want to know your parents' income and that's it. They don't take into account that, oh, you may have two other siblings that are going to college at the time. Oh, wait, and your mom and your stepdad also go to college. So they don't see that at all. I think because I never want to dissuade anyone from going to an art college because for me it helped a lot. I don't do independent learning very well. So I think when I've gotten asked by people about going to DigiPen in particular, is just if you can live at home. If you can at all, just live at home or live with people who can support you, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Um, I mean, other colleges definitely don't have the workload that DigiPen has, but DigiPen in particular, live at home or live with people who can take care of you because you will not have time to do so yourself, at least if you are taking a full workload, a full school load with you. Um, if you start into it and it's not working, there's absolutely no shame in removing yourself. There was, I think, my freshman year, between freshman and sophomore year, we lost half of who we entered with, and they
Wow.
had withdrawn and left. Yeah, the fall off between years at DigiPen is very big. Yeah, just be introspective with yourself before you go in, and then even after you've started, just so you can be on top of like your own emotional state with things. Like, is this really for you? Did you make a poor decision? And if you did, then that happens. Knowing that you can change your mind and that's okay.
Okay.
And that
Um,
college is for whatever age. It does not matter. If you do want to take a few years and just work somewhere and gain money, go and do it. I could not because I cried working retail and food service during my lunch breaks. So, make friends. And I mean, honestly, actually, I mean, that's why I would go to college anyways, just to make friends and be the person you would want to work with. Because if you're a jerk but a fantastic artist, people still won't want to work with you because people don't want to work with jerks. When I started working at that game studio after shortly after I graduated DigiPen, someone was actually fired like a month or two after I started because he was insufferable to work with. Like he wouldn't follow art direction or anything. He would just do his own thing. So he actually got fired because he just they couldn't work with him. So it's like getting into the art industry, being someone who's easy to work with, I think trumps a lot of other stuff. So I mean, I said earlier, it's like the technical skill you can pick up over time. Being a good person is probably a little harder.
Yeah.
Also, those people that you make friends with and that you go to college with are gonna be the ones that give you jobs, so that's why being friends with everyone is big. I mean, I think there was always a misconception that art college is easier, and that's wrong. That's just wrong. I think my stepdad felt that way for a while, and then he saw how much I was working when I was at home, and he was like, "Oh, oh, I get it now." So that was nice for to see that switch flip with him after a while. Um, I think there has been more discussion lately about the starving artist stereotype, and that just that's wrong and dumb, or
Mhm.
that artists are always depressed and that's when they make their best work. It's like that's also dumb. I don't want to draw when I'm sad. Why? The I guess there is the contentious point about art college being worthless, which is a whole other conversation and probably one that you're doing this whole thing for practically. Maybe as a sub note.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which on it that answer is just going to come down to the individual, so I don't consider it a misconception as much as a personal introspection that you yourself have to make. Because I said like I don't do independent learning very well, so all of the advice people are like, oh well, just go do this thing for free or take this class online that's only $60 or something. It's like I could, or I could also just go to school and have someone make up a deadline for me and tell me what to do so I can follow guidelines, which was what I like to have. I wish there would be classes about how to like treat yourself as a business and handle and like how to handle like how to handle charging for your services or how to go into an interview and negotiate for what you're worth, like that kind of stuff, rather than just how to art and how to make things and how to follow directions. That's like, well, that's the easy stuff. It's like this other stuff. How am I supposed to bill IRS for my freelance work? How does that work? How much of that money I make should be set aside for taxes? So it's like all the really boring stuff I would have loved to have had a class on. Learning how to give people what they want. Not necessarily what you want to do, but just what an instructor or an employer wants. Just give that to them to make them happy. Because I think that bit is probably one of the things that let me survive through DigiPen is just be like taking the first few weeks to recognize, okay, I got you as an instructor. What do you want to see in these projects we turn in? Like, I know we have the outline or outline written down or a verbal description they gave us, but what will give me the good grade for this class? Uh, and just how to, I guess, manipulate that, which sounds very shady to do, but it's like the cards are stacked against you. You have so much work. You can't sit here and make everything to a flawless perfection. It's just recognizing what you have to do to get a good grade. And then if you have time to go up above and beyond that. And I think that goes well with with any kind of learning or work thing is just not even art college.
Mhm.
Um, God, that sounds really shady though when I say it. It's like how to cheat the system and then how to lie and say that you did all the work, but you didn't really because you wanted to go to sleep. But you know what? Self care is important. That's a good piece of advice to go into college. Self care is important. Don't do all nighters. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. Take care of yourself. I wish I had taken better care of myself because I left DigiPen with horrible anxiety. I don't don't know. I had figure drawings I've done in my life drawing classes. And for any art college portfolio, you want to have figure drawing, you want to show that you can draw from life and use reference from life. Because that's just it's showing that you have observational skills and can analyze something. So figure drawing is always, I think, a necessary aspect of at least going into illustration related college stuffins. Um, but I also had like fan art I was proud of that I tossed in there too. I think I put in like I think I had one digital piece because I wanted to show that I could do work in digital as well. So I tried to run the gamut of like, okay, here's my more traditional artsy related things with figure drawing into okay, I have some graphic design for some logo stuff I did in at Art Institute along with just character illustrations. Um, yeah, which looking back, like I said, I have no idea how I got in based off of that. Showing that you can observe and draw from observation as well as your imagination. Um, and like particular style doesn't matter or it shouldn't matter. Who knows what kind of biases the person who's looking at your portfolio has, but it shouldn't matter. I had very anime looking stuff in my portfolio, both when I got into DigiPen and when I left. So our Art Institute really helped me prep to apply to DigiPen, honestly. Yeah, as a general comment, I I think art school gets a harsher rap than it should. Because whenever I see this discussion about art college come up in my online circles, there's always hard choices. There's always a hard line between the people who are like, yes, art school, and the no art school people. And there's very rarely you see someone like objectively talk about it going or like what you're doing now. It's like no one really goes into or explains their experience with it because it really always comes down to the person. Like me, I have to have structure for that art college provides, even though I'm still wallowing in debt, but i wouldn't have I wouldn't have gained the insight and skills I would have had otherwise, and I definitely wouldn't have made the connections I have now. Um, like I have school friends who I still talk to occasionally, and they're like I said earlier, they're the ones that are going to give you employment later because they know you and they like you and they've seen your work and they'll vouch for you. So I think that point is the biggest thing that people ignore about art college is that it's just there's a huge social aspect that you can miss out on, and sometimes that's okay because there are people who are online who are very very social and have made many connections that way. So again, it's just subjective. There's no good answer.